This is the plaintiff, Ryan Dubois. He says he rented his house to the defendants and their kids, and now they owe him rent and they refuse to pay it. He's a reasonable guy, but he needs his money to pay his bills and is here suing the defendants for the $2,900 he's owed. These are the defendants, Tammy and William Eastridge. Tammy says she has no idea why this guy's suing them because they did everything by the book when they moved out, including giving the plaintiff 30 days notice. They're happy to be in court today so the judge can decide once and for all who's right and who's not. They're accused of being rotten renters.
All parties, please use your right hands.
Welcome back to the People's Court. Next case on the docket. The plaintiff says he helped the defendants out by renting a place for them, and guess what?
Is that correct?
They stiffed him.
Okay.
But the defendants say they are happy to be in court today because the plaintiff is trying to do them wrong, and they will prove it to the judge. It's the case of rotten renters.
Thank you, Douglas.
You're welcome.
Okay, Mr. Dubois, you're suing your former tenants, Mr. and Mrs. Eastridge, for $2,900 in rent and fees that, according to you, they still owe you. Now, tell me your story. Tell me what happened here.
I put an ad on Facebook to rent out my home. Tammy got in touch with me pretty quick, and we discussed her. She said she would come down and pay. It was originally $1,800, but we managed to get it down to $1,700 initially, and then every month after it would be $1,600. She came down. They paid the $1,700 to secure the property, and they paid the security deposit, and they signed the contract at the same time. In the contract was a 30-day notice clause. Everything was great for a while. I ended up finding out there were some issues, and I worked with them on the issues. You know, they couldn't pay rent.
Did you know they had dogs?
On time. I didn't know they had dogs until later in the tenancy. So I actually didn't know about it. And later I confronted them on it and asked, are these your dogs? And they confirmed. And I said, well, there's usually a pet fee. I'll waive the pet fee, but you have to give me some sort of written agreement to take liability for any damages the dogs may cause. Because that's initially what the pet fee is for.
So did you present them with that document and give it to them to sign, or did everybody just drop? Well, they don't know. They're not lawyers. They don't. Are you lawyers, Mr. and Mrs. Eastridge? Well, I mean, they're, whatever you want them to sign, I'm sure they would sign. According to you guys, both sides just kind of let it go and nothing got signed on the pets. But let's talk, Mr. Dubois, about the rental. Actually, what I really wanted to talk about was the first sentence in your complaint, because it's one of the favorite things I've ever read. When I was living with my mother, I wanted a cat, but my mother didn't. So I bought a 4-bed, 3-bath, 3-acre, 2,100 square foot house and moved out of my mom's place.
There's more to that, but yeah, that's pretty much it.
I've never heard a better reason for moving out and buying a 4-bedroom house than I wanted a cat, All right, so you were living there and you were renting rooms out, and that didn't work out. You end up moving back with your mom. You decide to rent the whole house out. You rent it out to these folks. And the term is for how long? Is it month to month?
The term was it was month to month.
Okay, all right. Yeah. So now at some point, what happens? You tell them that they have to start looking for another place to live, correct?
At one point, I said it was a possibility that they would have to start looking for another place to live soon because my mom and I were going at odds and ends, and she was talking about kicking me out of the house. I told them, though, that I'd live in my car for 30 days before I messed them up on a 30-day notice. So I was ready to go live in my car. I said that to William in person at my house. I told him what was going on. I also then messaged them 3 days later, letting them know that the issue had resolved itself and there was nothing to worry about, that they could stay until the end of the kids' school year.
Okay, so I see a text here. On September 26th, you text them, my mother and I worked it out. We decided that if you want to stay there till the end of the school year, that's fine. If you do end up finding something before, then just keep me informed. Just know there is no longer an urgent rush. When do you guys, Mr. and Mrs. Eastridge, tell him that, you're moving out?
Well, we didn't exactly tell him until I think it was October the 11th, I believe, because we had just found the place, and it was kind of like a drop of a hat. Okay, I have this place, and, you know, we just needed to do it or we might have lost it. So it was like,
but
make the move
your month-to-month
and
lease with him does require you guys to give 30 days notice because he doesn't know when you're going to find a place. And his request that you guys start looking was very vague. I was under the impression from reading your answer that he had said you have until the 31st of October. He didn't. He didn't give you notice to move, which he could, because in this lease, either of you could give the other side 30 days notice and get out of the lease. But he didn't give you the 30 days notice. He just said, start looking, but it looks like we have 2 or 3 months. And then he says, you know what? It's not urgent at all. You can stay to the end of the school year. And there's nothing from you guys saying, we're going to look anyway. We're giving you our notice. You literally tell him, hey, we're leaving next week. That's not 30 days notice. Now, he has $1,000 of your security deposit. Did you guys ever discuss anything about that?
Well, I had told him that he could keep the security deposit. We paid him $600 after we found out that we was going to be moving on October the 11th. We paid him $600 on October the 12th. Okay. I told him that we could be out by the 18th of October, which gave us like a week. And he was already to move in the 18th. Okay. So I went to Virginia for a funeral and I got a phone call from Comcast wanting to disconnect my service on the 18th. And I had not finalized anything yet, either with him nor anyone. So I was like, no, I'm not going to disconnect it. And then I got a text from him jumping on me because he said that I was trying to put blocks in his way from moving in.
I just tried to call Andrew. I didn't get an answer. This is something we need to talk about. As per the contract, I requested 30 days notice. Obviously, you can leave whenever, but the 30 days gives me time to figure out everything on my end. That said, I'd require full rent for this month and about $500 from the next month, and I have to come to do a walkover before you leave. Yeah.
The only reason I brought up starting up internet, it wasn't even moving in. I wanted to start up the internet on the 18th, so whenever we moved in, we were ready to go. I didn't know what their plan was. The last thing I heard from them was on the 18th.
Yeah, but once you demand to say, I understand. But listen, you're right on the law. You would be entitled to all of the rent for October. And if they didn't give you 30 days notice, and you didn't, all of the rent for November, because it's an entire rental period. You don't go, if you decide to drop a bomb on October 11th, that doesn't just go to November 11th. That goes for the month of October. You have to give an entire 30-day rental period. So if you in mid-October say it, it's got to be for November 30th. But she gets to live there. So let me ask you a question, Mr. Eastbridge. One of the things he says, you can't count, Judge, the $1,000 I already have because I kept that for damages. Mr. Eastridge, let's talk to you for a while. How did you guys leave the place? Were there damages when you left?
No, ma'am, I don't think so.
Okay. Did you guys take pictures when you left so you can show me how you left it? Are these the pictures?
Yes, ma'am.
It's a nice place.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like it's in really good condition. I'd be pretty happy if a tenant left it looking like this.
No, and that's why I wasn't going after it.
Right, except for that you want me now not to count it. And so, but here's the problem. When you tell me, oh, you can't count that $1,000 because I kept it for damages, now you, Mr. Du Bois, are going to have to prove to me that you're entitled to keep that for damages. Otherwise, that goes on their side of the ledger when you're collecting rent, you see? So,
yes.
But let's see your pictures. So what is your premise, that their dogs ate up the wood?
They ate up the staircase, yes.
You have two sets of pictures. You have pictures that you took in December and pictures that you took in January. And what is going on with these wood posts? Were the dogs chewing?
I guess
openly. I mean, I'm sure they're puppies. They chew, but I can't say fully. And they have since moved into the property with their dogs. So that kind of concerns me if you took them in January.
Actually, it kind of concerns me even if you took them in December. That's a month and a half afterwards. Do you have dogs?
We hadn't moved in.
Did you take any pictures when they
act?
Let me just ask you a question. Did you take any pictures when they actually left on October 18th or 19th?
I didn't actually go out to the back porch.
Okay. All right.
No.
I find that you are correct, Mr. Du Bois. like it or not, folks, if you find a place and you love it, by all means go after it, but understand the costs involved don't get absorbed by him. They get absorbed by you. So you paid $600 for the rent in October, but you had to pay the rest of October and you have to pay all of November. That is $2,600. As to the $300 that he's suing for the animal fee, if everybody leaves it at, I'm just going to waive it, you just signed this, you're now you want to collect it? If you didn't bother collecting it back then and everybody was just letting it slide, that's waived. Plus, it's not clear that they're supposed to draft a letter of liability. Whatever it is you're demanding, you draft and they sign it. So you're not going to get that. And also, your proof issue on the wood there, I'm not going to allow you to keep the $1,000 for the security deposit. So of that $2,600, $1,000 of the deposit will go to reduce that, and that means that Mr. and Mrs. Eastridge, you still owe $1,600. Verdict for the plaintiff. Good luck, folks.
Thank you.
So the defendants have to give some money back, but not what the plaintiff was seeking. Mr. and Mrs. Eastridge, what do you think about the judge's decision?
I think it's fair.
I'm fair with that. Yeah.
Well, the judge thinks you didn't live up to your end of the bargain, so, I guess that's pretty fair. Mr. Du Bois, you yourself, you should have had better pictures and things like that. You might have done a little bit better in this lawsuit, and I think you realize that,
Yeah, I guess that I should have come better prepared with pictures. You're right.
No kidding. You've learned a valuable lesson. No question about that. All right, that's the judge's verdict. You're going to have to live with it, and that'll do it.
You weren't convinced that the proof was there to show that dogs wrecked the entire back stairs?
Oh, I'm pretty sure dogs wrecked the entire back stairs. I just know whose dogs. I also don't know how much it costs to repair them. I mean, he just keeps the security. There's damage. Boom, I keep the security deposit.
Yeah.
He didn't have a receipt. He didn't have a repair estimate. It's to replace a few pieces of wood.
No, he
he
had
just
plenty
keeps
of time
it.
to prepare for this. You have to have your ducks in a row. You got to dot the I's and cross the T's and bring competent proof of any damages that you've suffered.
And take date stamp pictures that show that, that's before you moved back in. Right. But, when your landlord's telling you, I may throw you out any day, I don't blame them for looking and not saying, oh, good, we can relax now.
Plus, it was also interesting that Ryan, the plaintiff, wanted to get a cat.
He buys a 4-bedroom house because he can't get a cat.
For his cat, right? He couldn't get a cat with his mom, moves out, buys a house.
I'll show you, Mom.
Darlene wants to know this. Hey, Harvey, now that the pandemic is starting to wind down, do you think that things are going to go back to normal by summer in all 50 states? Well, first of all, Darlene, do I look like Dr. Fauci to you? I think the answer is a little, but beyond that, yeah, I mean, it looks like when everybody is getting vaccines, or at least a lot of people are getting vaccines, if we can get to that magic 70% and have herd immunity, then we are going to be good to go. But I think there is so much pressure, both politically and economically, to open up. I think it's going to happen. We'll see you next time.